All right, Sarah, the first official day of organized team activities in Baltimore has finally arrived. And as I learned over the weekend, Lamar Jackson is expected to be in attendance after all.
Which should quiet some of the angst from local media who took aim at number 8 for not showing up to the Ravens voluntary football schools the last 2 weeks. More on all of that just ahead.
I'm Bobby Trossett alongside my co-host Sarah Ellison. It is Monday, May 22nd. Again, the first day of OTAs in Baltimore. And this is your morning Ravens update from inside the vault.
Well, unfortunately, there's some sad news to touch on that also needs to be cleared up. There's some confusion, so I'll do that in topic 2.
Plus, Odell Beckham Jr. represented the Ravens in a big way at the 148th running of the Preakness Stakes over the weekend.
Yeah, we have all of that and more coming up. Thank you for waking up with the Morning Vault, where you get the most important Ravens news in about 15 minutes. All right, Bobby, so you had your reporting hat on this weekend, and as I tweeted about Saturday, we were able to confirm what so many in this fan base had hoped for or even just expected ahead of today's official start to Baltimore's organized team activities.
Yeah, Sarah, I spoke to a respected source high up within the Ravens organization on Saturday and was able to confirm that Lamar Jackson will indeed be present for OTAs this week. Now, it wasn't clear-cut in terms of how active he's expected to be, but because there's a new offense and a new coordinator now in play, there's this heightened awareness from the media, as we've learned in recent weeks, for just how involved Lamar plans to be after signing his record-setting extension last month.
And this, of course, comes after 2 weeks of voluntary football schools for which Lamar and many other notable Ravens were not present, which I do not blame them one iota.
Neither do I, but unsurprisingly, as we've touched on, the only headlines to come out of all that were pointed towards Lamar, not anyone else. And keep in mind, we're talking about non-contact drills where guys didn't even have jerseys on. So it's probably the perfect time to revisit one of your recent clarification tweets that cleared a lot of this fuzziness up for the folks that maybe don't follow the minutia of an NFL offseason. So as you tweeted, the NFL and the Players Association agreed to a restricted 9-week offseason program. It's got 3 phases, and each one of them comes with varying restrictions. Phase 1, there's 2 weeks of activities limited to just meetings, strength and conditioning, and rehab only. Then you get to phase 2. You have 3 weeks of individual and group on-field instruction at a walkthrough kind of pace. There's no live contact. There's no team offense versus team defense. None of those drills are permitted. And by the way, this phase does include the 2 weeks of football school that we just referenced. Now the OTAs are beginning today, as we mentioned. Phase 3, for 4 weeks, teams can conduct a total of 10 days of organized team practice activity, again, which are the OTAs. No live contact is permitted, but 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills are permitted. So clubs can hold on top of that 1 mandatory minicamp for veteran players during this phase. And we know that mandatory minicamp is coming up next month in June. So Sarah, I've been saying this for weeks now. I know you're with me. All the football school stuff, the headlines, the buzz, the criticism of Lamar specifically is a complete non-story, if you ask me. But I have been saying this, and I'll say it again. I do believe it's a different conversation, knowing what's at stake this offseason, knowing the new system that's being implemented. Had he not shown up to OTAs, which he's now expected to do this week, it's a different conversation.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I mean, if you're asking coaches, they want all players in all the time for everything, which is why a CBA had to be agreed to, because coaches will always want that. But for this time around, and I've been saying this for weeks, last year I did not care if he was at OTAs. He knew the offense. This year it's a bit different with the new offense. So it seems as if Lamar understands that also, which is why he seems to be coming into town. But also just to like expect or assume, I guess is the word, that the last 2 weeks while there were football schools going on, that Lamar's down in South Florida just goofing off just because he hasn't been at one winning drive. That's not the case. He and new target Nelson Aguilar were seen working together last week. He has his iPad to study Monken's new system. And most importantly, he's surrounded by his personal coaches that he trusts and believes in. And listen, every single year he comes back from the offseason, Bobby, his technique in throwing always seems to be much improved. So, those personal coaches are helping him with that.
And now he's here in Baltimore, at least according to my source. So let's put all that offseason fluff to bed. I'd rather focus on the good stuff, like how Lamar plans to attack his new role in this new look pro-style offense, similarly to the one that he ran with Bobby Petrino while at Louisville. So hopefully we have that coming up in terms of content over the course of the next few weeks. But just a reminder, these are the following dates of other scheduled OTA sessions on the calendar coming up. May 22nd today, of course, kicks things off. Then they have a 2-day session, May 24th through the 25th. Another one on the 30th, and then the calendar flips. June 1st and 2nd, they have back-to-back sessions, the 5th and the 6th, the 8th and the 9th, and then again, the aforementioned mandatory minicamp, June 13th through the 15th.
And still to come here on The Vault, we're remembering a well-known personality from Ravens Twitter who, unfortunately, is no longer with us.
Sarah and I are super excited to announce our new sponsor, Oakley. Express your style and build a look that's made for you. And I know for me, I have super sun-sensitive blue eyes, so not only does Oakley check my fashion box, but it checks my necessity box. Oakley's changing the game, and it's time to discover a whole new world of possibilities. Maybe you run, maybe you golf, maybe you just flat out train. I don't know, maybe you just want to look like Lamar Jackson. If any of those are true, you need to get yourself a pair of Oakleys today. Suited for everyday eyewear with frames and lenses allowing for an extension of self. Really, it's an expression of your personality. There's more than meets the eye. And here on The Vault, we're all about look good, feel good, perform good. And that's why Oakley is the perfect partner for us. We do not leave the house in the morning without rocking our Oakleys. And hey, since it's officially almost summer, you may want to upgrade your sunglasses game right now. Check out Oakley.com to get yourself a pair today. I know my go-to sunglasses are the custom frog skins, so maybe take an extra look at them while you're there. Oakley even offers Prism Lens technology, which is a proprietary technology to Oakley and available for everyday settings as well. If you're interested in learning more, head on over to Oakley.com and do your own research. And while you're there, get yourself a pair of everyday glasses that'll be sure to change your look for the better. When you wear Oakley, there really is more than meets the eye, but don't just trust me, try for yourself. I've worn a lot of sunglasses brands in my life. I know Sarah has as well. We feel like we can both confidently say that Oakley's not only the best looking, but the best quality out there. So head on over to Oakley.com for more information today. So, Sarah, we're going to start off this second topic, unfortunately, with a little bit of somber news about one well-known member of the Ravens social media community.
Yeah, I mean, some of you, if you were online over the weekend, you may have noticed that the words RIP Chuck were trending on Twitter over the weekend, and many mistakenly thought that that was for former Baltimore Ravens safety Chuck Clark, who's now with New York Jets, obviously, and they all thought that he had passed away. But instead, it was actually a Ravens fan who many of us interacted with on social media. His name was also Chuck. I know many interacted with him on other platforms. I know he also was active on Instagram, but I personally knew him from Twitter with the handle @PurpleRainEra. And I'm sure many people listening to us today know him because he had plenty of followers and he was very active.
Yeah, and Sarah, unfortunately, we now know that Chuck took his life on Saturday evening. And before he did so, he posted to Twitter the following tweet, quote, "Sorry, gang. I hope the Ravens do well, but this will be my last tweet from me. Thanks for all the debates and laughs. LOL," close quote.
Yeah, it's tough. That's tough to read. And, Chuck Clark, the former safety, Ravens safety, he later tweeted over the weekend to kind of help clear up any confusion, confirming that he was fine. And then he also sent love and support to Chuck's family and to others that might be struggling. And Lamar Jackson also commented on the situation. He quote tweeted a photo of Chuck with his 2 young children and the news of his passing, Lamar tweeted 3 prayer emojis and wrote, quote, "Dang, bro, check on the ones that's always in great spirits. Hashtag praying for your little ones. Hashtag mental health awareness," close quote. Now that mental health awareness hashtag, remember, just last week we had covered and mentioned here on the Vault that Lamar just participated over Mother's Day weekend in an event that helps raise awareness and support for those in need while struggling with mental health. And many have mentioned on Twitter and elsewhere that those contemplating suicide can call 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And we join Lamar and many others in praying for Chuck's young children and loved ones who are surely grieving at this time. And, you know, I don't want to make this about us, but obviously both, well, not obvious, but both Bobby and I have been closely connected to some of the challenges that Chuck himself said he faced and the ending of his life. And let me just say this to those that may be struggling. Please know that miracles are real. Miracles are possible. And I say that because I've personally seen them. I've personally witnessed them happen. I've seen loved ones stare tragedy in the eye. And I've seen loved ones stare catastrophe in the eye. I've seen them stop running, turn around, face their tragedies, stare them in the eye, and then rise above them and transcend them. I've seen people find power and strength they never even knew they had. I've seen loved ones, I've witnessed them escape the jaws of death. And they didn't just go on in life and barely survive, but they went on to literally thrive. Now, I've also seen the opposite happen too. I've seen the sadness, and I felt the sadness that engulfs people that lose their loved ones in a tragic ways, just the way Chuck did. I've been one of those loved ones, and I know the struggle all too well. So if you're feeling like there's no way out, please do not lose hope, because again, miracles literally can and do happen every single day. Every single day. So why can't they happen for you? They can. It may not happen tomorrow. It may not happen on our timetable, but miracles can and do happen. If you're struggling, you're a fighter, you're a winner, you're bigger than your life's tragedies. So keep fighting for another chance for a miracle to happen in your life. All right, Bobby, the horse racing world centered around Baltimore this past weekend for the 148th running of the Preakness Stakes.
Yeah, and this topic 3 is brought to you by our friends at Oakley, but man, it certainly did. The Ravens were sure to show face, and it was highlighted by Odell Beckham Jr.'s honor of delivering the classic Riders Up call before the horse race officially began on Saturday. Listen to OBJ on the mic.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's finally time for the 148th running of the Preakness from my new home to the city of Baltimore. To all the fans watching around the world, Riders Up!
OBJ saying my new home, Baltimore is his new home. That definitely got people going, and it got me going. OBJ, he knows how. I think he's moved around enough. He knows how to just embrace a new city, and he's definitely fitting in awfully well, embracing this city of Baltimore, despite never even having played a game here yet.
Yeah, no doubt. But he was far from the only Raven to make an appearance at Pimlico on Saturday, Sarah. Here's some NBC audio of OBJ and John Harbaugh being interviewed together, but they were surrounded by bodyguards, basically, otherwise known as their teammates. Tyler Linderbaum, Tyus Bowser, Daniel Falele, Brandon Stevens, Charlie Kohler, Nick Moore, just to name a few. I mean, they were all over the place it was pretty cool to see all these guys together on national television, and this is what it sounded like.
Well, Mike, crab cakes and football, that is what Maryland does, right? I'm going to add in horse racing and really make it a trifecta. The Baltimore Ravens came out to support the state's signature race. Coach Harbaugh got all the Ravens out here. Newly signed Raven, Odell Beckham Jr., who's also doing the Riders Up call. You said your first horse race. What do you make of all this, and how are you feeling about the call later?
It seems like to be a lovely event from what I'm seeing. Great people around us. Got my teammates here, so I'm looking forward to it. Don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm looking forward to it, whatever it is.
Well, the man to my right can give you a few tips, right, Coach Harbaugh? You did the Riders Up call last year. You've been to quite a few Preaknesses. Why is this such a special event for the state?
It's an amazing event. Everybody does a great job putting it on. It's great for Baltimore, the people of Baltimore, horse racing in general. But, Odell, it's not that. I was nervous last year, too. It's not too hard. You just got to say Riders Up, right, with a lot of enthusiasm and be fired up. You're good for that. But everybody's having a great time. We're really enjoying it.
This is why he's coach. Okay, I just need a pick here. So, Adele, on you, who is winning the Preakness?
I'm going to go with Mage because he got that 3 on him.
All right, he's got the 3. Preakness Secretariat had the 3. Oh, I need the 3rd, the trifecta, right? Crab cakes, gentlemen, for all of you. Crab cakes, football, horse racing, Mike. That's what they do here in Maryland. Enjoy.
And other Ravens seen in and around Preakness over the weekend were Todd Monken, Justin Tucker, of course, Jordan Stout, and John Simpson.
And before we fly, some other quick news items, beginning with Tyrann Mathieu responding to a tweet that asked for the top 4 most elusive NFL players of all time. Now, that original tweet said number 1 was Barry Sanders, 2, Gale Sayers, and 3, Marshall Faulk. So number 4 was left open. And that's where Mathieu came in responding with, quote, Lamar Jackson, final answer, close quote. That's some pretty good company to be among. Elsewhere, Ryan Clark listed his top teams of the AFC. Not surprisingly, he put the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1. But the order of his next 2 teams may surprise some, at least outside of Baltimore.
No, my number 2 is tricky. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. Wow. Oh, wow. I feel like we're forgetting. We're forgetting that Lamar Jackson is a former MVP. Okay. Lamar Jackson now has Odell Beckham Jr. He now has Rashad Bateman. You add Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator, and we watch this defense continue to get better as the season progresses. Zay Flowers, under Mike McDonald. Think about making that move during the season. And I just think that this team right now is prepared to take that next step, and getting Lamar signed was a huge step toward that. Then I'll go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, what's difficult is both of these teams are in the AFC North. But when you think of Joe Burrow, you're talking about a guy that right now is a top 3 quarterback in this league, and I ain't talking about he's number 3.
And finally, NFL analytics guru Warren Sharp did a study on which teams benefited the most and least from what he calls net rest edge built into their schedules. Now, net rest is defined as the total days of extra rest versus a team's opponents over the course of an entire season. So, for example, no team likes facing an opponent who is coming off of a bye week, right? And that's because that opponent gets an extra week to prepare for you and extra time to overcome injuries and rest up. And then obviously similar studies can be looked in for teams coming off of Thursday night football or Monday night games. So Warren, after looking at all the teams, it turns out that Baltimore has the 6th best rest edge in the entire league. And that helps. What helps their ranking is that the Ravens don't face anyone coming off a bye week this year, which is kind of incredible. And it's a nice little advantage. There's a 3-way tie for the biggest rest edge between the New York Jets, Chicago, and Washington. And then the team with the biggest rest disadvantage, and it's by a large margin, the San Francisco 49ers.
Thanks for listening to the Morning Vault. We created our show to keep you plugged into all things Ravens. If you've been enjoying our content, please consider joining one of our membership platforms by visiting patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. As you probably know by now, we have been betting on ourselves by creating content independently from any big broadcast station or corporation. And with your membership support, you'll give us a chance to keep churning out daily Ravens content for years to come.
And a special shout out to 2 of our newest patrons, Rick Henry and Jason Barrett. We really appreciate you guys and your support. And you know what? We want to hear from everyone. whether you're a patron or not, with comments, questions, or if you'd be interested in advertising, you can reach us by email via BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. That's all the time we've got today, but be sure to submit your questions for this month's mailbag episode, which is coming up later this week.